Picture your great-grandmother's face. Not a photograph. Her actual face, the way it moved when she laughed, the particular way she said your family's name. For most people listening to this, there is nothing there. A blank, maybe a surname, maybe a faded photo in a box somewhere. But the face, the voice, the person is gone. And here is the strange part. She was as real as you are right now. She had a favorite song that could stop her in a doorway. She had a private fear she never told anyone. She had mornings, thousands of them, where she stood at a window with something hot in her hands and thought about her life. Exactly the way you do. She loved people desperately. She was the center of her own enormous world. And she has been erased so completely that her own great-grandchild cannot picture her face. This is not some special tragedy that happened to her. It is the ordinary fate of nearly every human being who has ever lived. Give it 3 generations, maybe 4, and the erasure is almost total. Not just death, something more final than death. The disappearance of the fact that you were ever here at all. I want to sit with that, because it sounds like the bleakest thought a person can have. One day, you will be forgotten completely. Every photo, every story, every person who ever knew your laugh gone. The world will close over the space where you were the way water closes over a stone. But I want to try to convince you of something that sounds impossible. That this fact looked at directly and without flinching is not a sentence. It might be one of the most freeing things you will ever let yourself believe. Try this right now. Name your 8 great-grandparents, just their names. Almost no one can. And these are not strangers. These are the people without whom you would not exist, who loved your grandparents the way your parents loved you. 2 or 3 generations and they have vanished. Names, faces, all of it. Now take the obvious next step. You are someone's future great-grandparent. There is a child not yet born who will fail to name you. Not because anyone wronged you, because that is simply what time does to all of us. It does not just bury us, it erases us. Maybe you are thinking this is only the fate of ordinary people. That the way to beat it is to become big enough, important enough, to carve your name somewhere time cannot reach. People have been trying exactly that for as long as there have been people, and the desert is full of the results. In 1818, the poet Percy Shelley published a short sonnet called Ozymandias. It is about a traveler who comes back from an ancient land with a story. Out in the middle of a desert, he says, there are 2 vast legs of stone standing with no body, and half sunk in the sand beside them, a shattered stone face, a broken statue of a forgotten king. And on the pedestal, there is an inscription still legible after all the centuries. It reads, my name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. It was meant as a boast. Look at everything I built. Look at how great I was. Despair. Because you will never match me. And then Shelley gives you the answer to that boast in 4 of the coldest words in the English language. Nothing beside remains. The works are gone. The empire is gone. There is only a broken face in the sand. And Shelley writes, the lone and level sand stretching away in every direction, flat and endless and indifferent. Here is the detail that makes it bite. Ozymandias was a real man. It is the Greek name for Ramesses II, Ramesses the Great, one of the most powerful pharaohs in the history of Egypt. A ruler who reigned for more than 60 years and stamped his name across more monuments than almost any king who ever lived. He did everything a human being can possibly do to not be forgotten, and his name survives today, mostly as the title of a poem about being forgotten. There is a king in Shelley's most famous poem who had carved into stone the words, look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. He wanted every age that came after him to feel small next to his greatness. And the poem's reply is just 4 words long. Nothing beside remains. Only a broken statue, face down in an empty desert. That was a man who tried harder than almost anyone in history to be remembered forever. So here is the question. If the pharaohs could not outrun oblivion with whole empires of stone, what exactly do we think our legacy is going to do? The desert is patient, it takes the kings too. So let's be precise about what is actually coming for us, because there is a way of mapping it that I find oddly clarifying. The neuroscientist David Eagleman wrote a small, strange, beautiful book called Some, a collection of imagined afterlives. And in one of them, he lays out an idea that has stayed with me since I first read it. There are 3 deaths, he writes. The first is when the body ceases to function. The second is when the body is consigned to the grave. And the third is that moment sometime in the future when your name is spoken for the last time. Think about what that third death really means. Long after your heart stops, long after your funeral, there is one more event still waiting in the schedule of the universe. A final moment when someone, somewhere, says your name out loud or thinks of you for the very last time. A grandchild mentions you to someone who never met you and then never mentions you again. And after that one sentence ends, you are for the first time truly and completely gone. Not dead, erased. And here is the part that makes the ground tilt. That moment has a date. It is already out there, fixed somewhere in the future. A specific afternoon, decades or centuries from now, the last time your name will ever exist in a human mind. You will not be there to feel it, but it is coming as surely as your first death. And unlike your first death, it is the one that closes the book for good. A neuroscientist named David Eagleman describes 3 deaths. The first, when your body stops. The second, when they bury you. And the third, the real one, the moment somewhere in the future when your name is spoken aloud for the very last time and then never again. Most people are terrified of the first death, but it is the third one that actually ends you. And here is what almost nobody notices. That final moment already has a date. It is sitting out there in the future right now, waiting, and there is nothing you can do to move it, which means the only honest question left is not how to avoid it. It is how to live knowing it is coming. Now, everything in us recoils from this. We do not want to be the forgotten great-grandmother. We do not want to be the broken statue. So we build. The anthropologist Ernest Becker had a name for it. He called it the Immortality Project. The idea that a huge amount of human striving is really an attempt to buy a kind of permanence. We attach ourselves to things we hope will outlast us. We want to leave a mark, build a legacy, be remembered, matter to history. We carve our names into careers and companies and reputations, into children we secretly hope will carry us forward, into work we pray will still be read after we are gone. And there is something noble in that. But look closely at what it actually is. It is a frightened bargain with time. It is the pharaoh's bargain, just on a smaller budget. We are trying to strike a deal with the future, trading away the present, the only thing we actually have, for a few extra decades of being a name in someone else's mouth. And it is a terrible deal because the future does not honor it. The sands are already level over the pharaohs. They will be level over us. So if the bargain is hopeless, what is left? This is exactly the point where most people brace for despair. And it is exactly where the people who thought about this most carefully found something else entirely. Nearly 2000 years ago, the most powerful man in the world was writing notes to himself at night that he never intended anyone to read. He was Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, ruler of a quarter of the human race. And over in those private notes, the ones we now call the meditations, he returns to a single thought, almost like a man pressing on a bruise to check that it still hurts. He keeps reminding himself that he is going to be forgotten. Soon, he writes, you will have forgotten the world, and soon the world will have forgotten you. He lists the celebrated names of the past, the famous men everyone once admired, and notes that they are gone, their admirers gone too, their names already strange on the tongue, and he understands that he is describing his own future with open eyes. He knows that even an emperor, even the most remembered man of his age, ends as dust and a fading word. But here is what is remarkable. Marcus does not write this in despair. He writes it as medicine. For him, the certainty of oblivion is not a wound, it is the cure. Because if even the emperor will be forgotten, then the entire frantic game of status and reputation and being remembered is revealed as the illusion it always was. And once you truly see that the game cannot be won, you are suddenly, strangely free to stop playing it. Free to stop performing for a future audience that will not even remember your name, and to ask a far better question. Not, how will I be remembered, but what is the right thing to do right now, today, in the only moment that was ever actually mine? The most powerful man in the Roman Empire used to lie awake, reminding himself that he would be completely forgotten. Marcus Aurelius wrote it in his private journal. Soon you will have forgotten the world, and soon the world will have forgotten you. You would expect that to be the thought of a depressed man. It was the opposite. He used it as freedom. Because if even an emperor ends as a forgotten name in the dust, then the whole exhausting game of impressing people and chasing a legacy is already lost for everyone. Always, and a game you cannot possibly win is a game you are finally allowed to put down. There is a writer alive today who took this ancient idea and gave it a name and a sharper edge for modern life. His name is Oliver Burkeman, and in 2021 he published a book called 4000 Weeks. The title is the whole argument in 3 words. If you are lucky enough to live to 80, you get about 4000 weeks of life. That is all. A number small enough to write on the back of your hand. And Burkeman proposes something he calls, only half jokingly, cosmic insignificance therapy. The idea runs like this. We move through our days quietly crushed by a sense that our choices have to measure up to some enormous standard. That our lives must matter in a grand, permanent, world historical way, or else they have been wasted. And that standard is impossible. Nobody meets it. Not the pharaohs, not the emperors, not anyone who has ever lived. So Burkeman says, let it go. Face the plain truth about your own insignificance. On the scale of the universe, he writes, what you do with your life does not matter all that much, and the universe absolutely could not care less how you spend your finite time. And then comes the twist that turns it into therapy instead of nihilism. That is good news, because the moment you stop trying to justify your existence to the cosmos, you are released to actually live it. The bar drops from impossible all the way down to human. Suddenly, a quiet life, a kind act, a good meal, an afternoon with someone you love, a small piece of work done well can be enough. Not enough to echo through eternity. Enough in itself. Enough right now. Which it turns out is the only kind of enough there ever was. Here is a strange kind of relief. The writer Oliver Burkeman points out that if you reach 80, you get roughly 4000 weeks of life. That is the whole budget. And on the scale of the universe, what you do with them does not matter even slightly. The cosmos could not possibly care less. Most people hear that and feel a chill, but sit with it 1 second longer. If nothing you do has to matter on a cosmic scale, then you are free. You no longer have to justify your existence to eternity. You just get to live for the few thousand weeks you have, for the things that are actually in front of you. The pressure to be significant was the prison. Your insignificance is the key that opens it. So here is the turn. This whole thing has been building toward. The fear of being forgotten is really the fear that if no one remembers us, then our life did not count. That to be erased from memory is the same as never having mattered at all. But look carefully at everything we have found, and you will see that those are two completely different things. Your great grandmother's life mattered. It mattered enormously to her and to the people in the room with her on the actual days she was alive. The warmth of her, the love she gave, the mornings at the window. None of that is undone by the fact that you cannot picture her face. It already happened. It was already real. It was already enough on the days it was happening. Her being forgotten now takes nothing away from the life she genuinely lived then. And exactly the same is true for you. The meaning of your life is not stored somewhere up ahead, in some ledger of people who will remember you. It is happening now, in the only place meaning has ever lived, which is the present moment and the people who are actually in it with you. You will be forgotten, and that will not reach back through time and drain the meaning out of a single day you were truly alive. The two things never touch, which means the whole bargain we keep trying to make with the future, the trading away of now for a shot at being remembered later, is not just hopeless, it is backwards. We are giving away the one thing that was ever real, the present, to buy something that was never going to last and never mattered as much as we imagined. The memory. We are like a man selling his house to afford a more impressive headstone. So let the forgetting come. It is coming anyway. One day, the last person who remembers you will themselves grow old and go quiet, and your name will be spoken for the final time. And then the sands will be level over you. The way they are level over the pharaohs, the way they are already level over your great grandmother. And on that day, none of it will matter to you, because you will be long past caring, and none of it will reach back to touch the life you are living right now. What is left when you really absorb that is not despair. It is a kind of lightness. The performance can stop. The frantic carving of your name into things can stop. You do not have to win a contest against eternity that no human being has ever won. You get to do something far better with your 4000 weeks. You get to actually be here for them. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who knew he would be forgotten, kept reminding himself that the only thing a person can ever truly lose or truly possess is the present moment. Not the past which is already gone. Not the future which no one is promised. Only this, the day in front of you, the people in it, the small, bright, finite fact of being alive right now. The traveler in Shelley's poem stood in the desert and looked at the wreck of a king who wanted to be remembered forever, and saw only the lone and level sands stretching away. It reads like the loneliest image in all of poetry, but you can read it the other way. Those sands are level over everyone. The great and the small, the remembered and the forgotten, all of us walking toward the same quiet horizon. And there is a strange peace in that. You do not have to be the exception. You were never going to be. You only have to be here fully, while you still are. You will be forgotten completely. And the sooner you let that be true, the sooner you are free to live.